Hello everyone, and welcome to kind of a catch-up video is the best way I can think of to describe this. I finally converted all of my series into this bullet journal. No special drawings or anything. All I did is just write down the name of the series, the author, and what books in the series I have read. So for 2023 and prior, I have colored the books I have read in this green color. It's the Primrosa brand, and there's no color name on this. It's just a light green. So any series I read for the rest of December, when I mark it in here, I'll add this book or this color, colored in with this color. So I'm in the middle of quite a few series. There are some that I was able to complete, but the journal that I was using before was so messy, and so it's like I just need to do something to settle my mind. So how many series am I in the process of? I think 85. Now, it's actually a little less than that because, like, as of right now, I know there's one series that I've read the first book in, but there's no additional books out yet. But it is stated that it will be a series, but there's no announcement or anything for the next book yet. So let's go ahead and get into this. I'll insert the first book of the series here. I don't think I'm gonna go into a big of a synopsis. I don't want this to be a super long video. I just want to tell you what series I am in, and the author, and what number book I have read up to in that. Okay, and these are in no particular order. So the first one in my notebook is the Red Rising Saga, written by Pierce Brown. There are announced 7 books. I've read the first 3 books. Next, I have The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Now, this one, originally, I did find this out and I found this interesting. It originally would have been like a duology because the prequel is The Hobbit. I have not read that yet. Now, the Lord of the Rings trilogy as we know it was originally written as one book, but it has been broken up to today's version, which is 3 different books. I read the first 2 in that today's version. So I still have to read the third one and the prequel, so The Hobbit. Next up, I have Writer's Apprentice Mystery, written by Julia Buckley. This is a cozy mystery series. I've only read book number 1. I hope to get to book number 2 this month, but I don't know if that's going to happen. We will see. It just kind of depends. There's a couple of readathons I'm participating in December. So I'm filming this in December. You'll be seeing this in January. So in December, there's a couple of month-long readathons I am participating in, and I don't know if that book will fit any of the prompts, so we'll see if I can get it to fit. If not, if I have time to read it, we'll see. No worries if I can't. So there are 5 books. After book number 5, as of right now, there is a novella. So 5.5, technically. So anyway, next up I have another cozy mystery that I'm absolutely loving, and this is The Kitchen Witch Mysteries by Lynn Cahoon. I have read through book number 3. There are novellas between several of these books. There's a novella, and then there's book 1, and then novella, and then book 2, a novella, and book 3, and then we have books 4 and 5. No additional novellas as of yet. I don't know if there's going to be any more or not. And I don't know how long this series is going to be or anything. And I have read through book 3. Next is another cozy mystery, and that's the Bookmobile Cat Mystery series, written by Laurie Cass. I've only read book number 1. I hope to get to the next one in January, so the month that you are seeing this. Next, I have A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. I originally thought this was a trilogy. I watched, and I don't remember whose YouTube video, but there's actually 4 books in this series as of right now. So I have read the first 3. I do own the 4th book, so hopefully I'll be able to get to that soon. So as you've seen, and as I guess I've just kind of naturally decided, I will not be doing a synopsis for these just because there are so many. Next up I have Tristan Strong, written by Kwame Mabalia. As of right now, it is a trilogy, and I have only read book number 1. I do have book number 2. Next, I have The Scholoments by Naomi Novik. There are 3 books out so far, or there's 2 books out, and the third one's, I think, is the third one out, or is it just announced? I don't remember, but I have read the first book. Next, I have The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. There are 13 books in the series. I've only read the first 2. I do have book number 3. Next is The Nixia Triad by Scott Rentigan. I'm sure I said that wrong. I read the first one. I do own book 2, and there's 3 in this series. Next is Dork Diaries by Rachel Renee Russell. This one's a middle grade, and I like that this is like a journal format. There are 15 books as of right now in this series. I have read the first 4. I have the next 2, I want to say, in my bedroom, so hopefully soon get to those. Next, I have This Is Not the Jess Show by Anna Carey. I listened to book number 1 via audiobook. I have not found book number 2 yet, so I need to figure something out. I may just try to get an ebook version of that, and there's only 2 books out in that series. Next, I have We Sisters 3, written by Melissa F. Miller. This is another cozy mystery series. There are 6 books in the series, and I have only read the first 1. Next, I have Riley Thomas series, written by Melissa Erin Jackson. This one is very similar, as I read the first book via audiobook only, so I need to find book number 2, and there's only 2 books out in this series. The next series I have, number 15, is The Griffin Gate by Vashti Hardy. This is a middle grade, like early middle grade reader series. I have read book 1. I now own the second and the third book. There are 3 in this series. 16 on my list is Phoebe and Her Unicorn by Dana Simpson. There are, as of right now, 18 books. I don't know if there's going to be any more or not, but I do have with each series a line underneath where I have the numbers, so that if it goes on to the next line, I can add additional books as they are announced and released, if that does happen. So 18 books as of right now for Phoebe and Her Unicorn. And I have read the first 12 books in this series, and I know I have the next one at the very least. So I have number 13 in my room. So yes, next up I have the graphic novel version of The Babysitter's Club. Original story written by Anne M. Martin. The first several books in the graphic novel format was designed by Raina Telgemeier. I have read the first 3. As of right now, there are 15 books out, and at some point in this graphic novel adaptation, it does switch artists. I don't know who the other artist is yet, but as of right now, I am still underneath the Raina Telgemeier artist. Next, I have Cassidy Blake series by Victoria Schwab, so V.E. Schwab, Victoria Schwab. This one's her middle grade version of The Little Girl That Can See Ghosts. I have read the first 1 via ebook. I have book 2 on my Kindle, and there are 3 books in this series. Next, now this is one I actually have completed unless the author releases one, so as of right now I am up to date, and that is the Cat Massage Therapy. This is a translated manga series written by Haru Hisagawa. And again, there's only 3 books out so far. I hope there will be more, but no guarantees. But as of right now, I am up to date. And hopefully, I'm hopeful that there will be more. Series number 20 on my list is Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welsh. I have all 3 books. I've only read the first one. So, and again, there's 3 books in that series. Next up, I have The Greer Hogan Mystery, written by M.E. Hillard. I have only read number 1. I believe this one is a cozy mystery. As of right now, there's only 4 books out. And if this is the series I'm thinking of, I own the next book. Next up, I have Sarah Scribbles. This is a nonfiction graphic novel, kind of like a slice of life type of a thing. And this was written by Sarah Anderson. I have read the first 3, and I do own book number 4, so hopefully I'll be able to get to that one soon. I don't know if there's going to be more. I really hope there will be more. I love this series. Sarah Anderson does a great job with this. Series number 23 on my list is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. There are 3 books in this series. I have read book number 1, and I own book number 2. I don't recall. I'll have to look if I own the third one or not. So, but at the very least, I do own book number 2. Next up is The Earth-Sea Cycle by Ursula K. Le Guin. Now this one has 6 full novels in the series, but a couple of novellas. So we have a point 1, point 2, point 3, and then it's books 1 through 6, and then there's a point 4 and point 5. I've only read book number 1, the first novel. I own the second one, and I did order a collection of a bind up of at the very least the first 3 novellas. So I do own those. So eventually I'll get to those, but I've only read official book number 1. Next up, I have the Belgariad series by David Eddings. I own this series on my Kindle. I have read the first 2, and there are 5 books in this series. The next one is another one where I read the first book via audiobook, and so I need to see how I will obtain a copy of book number 2. I haven't looked too much into it yet, but I plan to at some point. And the series that I'm talking about is Scott Carluccio Randall by Kat Hogan. There's 2 books in this series. I've only listened to the first book. Okay, series number 27. This is one that I am current on, but this is supposed to be a series. And this is the Rebecca Sorley by Dot Hutchison. There's only 1 book out in this series, but it did say it's book 1 in a series. I have not seen any announcement for the next book, so I'm hoping it will come out. I have not seen any word on it. So I don't know if there's been a change and it's going to just stay a standalone, but I would love to see this develop into a series. It does say again that it will be a series, but there is no book number 2 out yet. But I still have it in here so that when eventually, hopefully it does get announced, I can add it into my journal here. Next up, I have A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. I have read this entire series before, but I am trying to reread it. I have reread the first 2 books in the series. I do own the third one. I'm working on collecting these books. So once I read the third one, then I'll order the 4th one, type of a thing. So I'm working my way through that, and there are 13 books in this series. Next, I have Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, and yes, this has been, from what I have found online, confirmed to be a series. I don't think book 2 is out yet. I have read book number 1, and there is a novella that is published. I do own a collection of novellas by Brandon Sanderson where the novella for Elantris is in that collection. I have that on my Kindle, so hopefully I'll get to that one soon. And hopefully there will be an announcement date. I haven't found one for book number 2, but there's a lot everywhere I've looked online. It does say it's a series. Next, I have the Southern Reach series by Jeff Vandermeer. As of right now that I have seen, I am up to date. I've read the first 3 books in this series. There are supposedly 4, but I don't think the 4th one has been released yet. I don't think there's a cover or title or anything, but I think this is one that I found where the author did confirm that he's working on another book in the series, but there's no word yet as far as anything else from that. Next up, I have The Roots of Chaos by Samantha Shannon. This is the one where the first book that was released was Priory of the Orange Tree. And so I have read that, and I have read the prequel to that, and Samantha Shannon did confirm she is working on another book for that series, but it's kind of on the back burner right now where she works on other works in progress that she has. But eventually there will be another book in this series. So as of right now, I'm up to date. Next up, I have the Alex Stern series, similar situation. I am up to date on this. I have read the books 1 and 2. This is the Ninth House and Hellbent books. So according to Goodreads, there will be a 3rd book in this series, but there's no information as far as title, release date, even cover, or anything yet. But according to Goodreads, there will be a 3rd one. Next, I have the Bradford Sisters series by Becky Wade. This is a romance series, and it is a clean, sweet Christian fiction romance series. I have read the novella that starts with the father of the 3 sisters. Each book, they're like companion novels. So I don't know if they are consecutive as far as events go, but they do follow a different sister. I have read through book number 1. So I've read the very first prequel novella, and then I've read book 1. There is a book 2, and then there is another novella, and then a book 3. I have yet to get to those ones, but I do own the whole series. Next up I have Gangsta Granny by David Williams, I'm guessing is how it is said. There are 2 books in this series. I have read book 1, and that's as far as I've gotten in that. Next I have Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. This is a trilogy, and I have only read the first book, but I do remember really enjoying this one, and I do have the second book on my Kindle, so hopefully soon. Series number 36 on my list is The Selection by Kira Cass. There are 5 full novels in this series and several little novellas, so there's a point 4, point 5, then books 1 and 2, which I have read, and then we have a point 5, point 6, then book 3, and then there's 8.1, point 3, and then books 4 and 5. So it's kind of a little bit all over as far as the numbers go, but I've only read the first 2 novels, and I do own all the novels, and if I remember right, I've either looked at or have purchased one of the 2. I think I do own the novels, like a collection of the novellas on my Kindle. So next it's another series by Jeff Vandermeer, and this is a trilogy, or not, excuse me, not a trilogy. As of right now, it's a duology. I have read book number 1. There is a book point 5, and then there book number 2, but I have read the first book on my Kindle. Next is Dark Passengers by L.C. Ainsworth. I have read book 1, and there are 2 books in this series so far. Next, I have the series called True Colors, and each book in this series is written by a different author. And I have read the first book, and there are 12 books in this series thus far. I don't know if there's going to be any more, but at least the 12. All right, series number 40. We're almost halfway. I have the Palm Beach novels by Susanna Marin. There are 2 books in this so far. I have read the first one. Next, I have Fever by Karen Marie Moning. There are 11 books in this series. I have read through book 4. I have actually recently checked out book 5. So hopefully I will be able to get to within the next, hopefully by the end of January, be able to get to book number 5. Next, I have The Primas of Power by Alexis Daria. This is a trilogy. I am caught up on this because the 3rd book is not released. So I've read the first 2 books, but the 3rd one is still to be determined as far as when it will be released. I don't think there's a title yet, but definitely no cover, but there will be a 3rd book in this series. Next, I have Matched by Ali Condi. This is a trilogy, and I have read book 1, but I do own the whole trilogy. Next, I have Giant Days by John Allison, and this is a graphic novel series. There are 54 books in this series. I have read the first one only, but I do own the second graphic novel. Next up, I have Musai by E.J. Mello. This is a trilogy, and I have only read book number 1. Next, I have Of Blood and Bone by John Gwynne. This trilogy takes place after the events of the Faithful and the Fallen series, so do be aware you need to read The Faithful and the Fallen before Of Blood and Bone. Again, Of Blood and Bone is a trilogy. I have read the first 2. I hope to get to the 3rd book this month. If I don't, that's fine. I will definitely hopefully get to that in 2024. Next, I have The Fear Street World. Now, this is more... It's called a series. There are a total of 51 books, but they're all completely standalones. They all completely follow different timelines, different characters. It's just in the same world. So 51 books. There are some series within this world. So like there's Silent Night series, the Wrong Number series, things like that. So I have read books number 5, 7, 8, 30, 31, 37, and 49. I still have a lot to go on this one, but I will be working my way. This is the one series, usually I have to read things in order, like especially with cozy mysteries, even though they say you can read them in any order, I prefer to read them in order. But R.L. Stine's Fear Street books are the one I have no problem reading them out of order, unless of course it's like Wrong Number and then Wrong Number 2. Next I have Duke Undone by Joanna Lowell. This one's a little confusing. It says this is a trilogy, but I think the 3rd one was changed into its own thing. I need to look more into that one, but supposedly this is a trilogy. I do know that there are 2 books definitely out in this series. I do own both of them. I have read the first one. Next, I have Children of the Whales. This is written by Abi Umida, and this is a manga series. 23 books in the series. I have read book 1, and I do own the next. Next, I have Wicked by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a trilogy, and there are also 3 novellas after the trilogy. I did buy a bind-up book of the trilogy, so I do own the bind-up book, and I've only read the first one in the series. And then the last one on this page is series number 51 that I have, and that's Dream and Sun by Ichiko Takano. And there are 10 books in this series. I don't know if it's complete. I've heard it is, but I'm not positive on it yet. And I've only read the first book in this series, but I do own book number 2. All right, series number 52 on my list is Gen M, like Generation M, like Mighty. Gen M by Stephen Berezhnai. Berezhnai. There are 2 books in this series. I have read the first one. I do own book number 2 on my Kindle. Next, I have Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli. There are 2 books in this series. I have unhauled the first one, but I do own the second one, and I will more than likely be unhauling that one after I read that, but I do want to read that because it takes place with a different POV than the first one. So I do want to read from a different POV. Next is another manga series. This is the Black Butler series by Yana Toboso. There are 33 books in this series so far, and I have read book number 1, but I do own the next book in the series. Next, I have Orange, the Complete Collection by Ichiko Takano. And the Complete Collection, there are 2 books in this. I have read the first one, and I will get to the second one. I do own it. I'm just waiting for the right time to pick it up. Suicide is a big thing in that, so I'm just waiting until I'm in the right mood. Next, I have the Hannibal Lecter series by Thomas Harris. I do own the entire series. There are 4 books. I have only read the first one so far. Next, I have Women of Tel Aviv by Mia Sivan. There are 3 books in this series. I have read book number 2. I did not know if this was a trilogy before I picked up book number 2. So I will be getting a hold of book number 1. Book number 2 I picked up from the library, so I need to find a copy of book number 1 so that I will read book number 1, and then I don't remember if the third one is out yet or if it's just announced that there will be a third one. Next series I have is a manga, and that's Tokyo Ghoul by Sui Ishida. 14 books in this series. I've only read the first one, but I do own the next one. Next, I have City of Sisterly Love by A.K. Landau. There are 5 novels in this and 2 novellas. I have read the first 2 full-length novels in this book. I do own the third one. Each book follows a different person, but they do follow the events, and some of the events overlap. So, for example, the events of book 2, for the most part, follow the events of book number 1, but there are flashbacks, so where some of the events take place during the events of number 1. The prequel novella, I did get that one, but then there's a note in that book saying you have to read that book after you've read all of the standard novels. So I do own the prequel to the whole series, but I have not gotten to that one yet. Next, I have the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I have only read book number 1, but I hopefully will be getting to book number 2. I do own a copy of that one, so hopefully soon. Next, I have the Addicted series by Krista and Becca Ritchie, and there are 5 books in this series, although I think anything after book number 5 switches to the Calloway Sisters series. So there's a series after this one, but I have read the first 2 in this world. Next is a series I have already read, but I'm working my way back through it, and that is the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. I have reread the first 2. Hopefully we'll get to the third one soon, but 7 books in that series. Moving on, I have the Dreamland Billionaires series by Lauren Asher. This is a trilogy. Each book follows a different brother, and I have read book number 1, but I do own the whole trilogy. So hopefully I'll be picking up the second one soon, but that's a common theme throughout this video. Next, I have Witches of Whisper Grove by Andress Bear. This is a short kind of cozy mystery type series and kind of more cozy fantasy, I would say. I have read book number 1. I do have the second book on my Kindle. Next, I have the Valetti Crime Family, written by Willow Winters. There are 5 books in this family. Each follows a different family member, and I have read book number 1, and I do have book number 2 ready to go. Next up, I have the Lancaster Prep series by Monica Murphy. There are 5 books and 1 novella in this series. I do own books number 2 and the novella that takes place after that. I have only read book number 1. I also have a series called The Complete Cheese Sweet Home, written by Kanada Konami. There are 4 of these compilations, like each of the Cheese Sweet Home. There's like 3 or 4 of those mangas in the Complete Cheese Sweet Home volumes, and there are 4 of the volumes. And I have read the first one. I do own the second. Alright, series number 68 on my list is A Monstrous Mistake. This is by various authors. There are 22 books in this series. They are not numbered. This was, I think these all take place on Halloween and follow all different monsters. These are novellas, and I don't see any order. I just see they're all underneath A Monstrous Mistake series name, but they are not numbered. So it's not going to matter what order you read them out of. I just happened to pick up the first, I think it was, I don't even remember what one. You'll see an image of the one that I read, but whatever it was, I do remember it being an alien one. So, but yeah, so there's 22, and I'll be working my way through that one. There is another one in that series that I do own. I just don't remember the title of that one either. Next, I have Witchlings by Claribel A. Ortega. I hope to get to book number 2 soon. I do own that. As of right now, there's only 2 books out. I did see that there is a novella between books number 1 and 2. I have looked to try to obtain a copy of that novella, and I can't find where I can get a copy of that. So it may just be only the 2 that I read. All right, series number 70 on my list is Books of Blood by Clive Barker. I read the first one from the library. I was kind of lukewarm about it, but Books of Blood is a collection of short horror stories. I have read other books that are a collection of short horror stories, so it's kind of a hit or miss. So I do want to try more of the Books of Blood series. There are 6 in this particular series, but I will be looking for those from the library. Next, I have Palace Insiders by Lucy Parker, and this is a duology. I own the first one. I got the first book from a library book sale. I have read that, and again, this is a duology, so at some point I will be getting the second one. Next, I have the Blood Falls series by India Amer. This one's a little bit different as well. This is, ultimately, it is a trilogy, and I think it was like a collection of short stories, but then they were combined into one novel. So depending on where you look, like on Goodreads, it says there's 6 books in the series, but when I look on Amazon, it says it's a trilogy. So I think the first 3 books were short stories and are now combined into one novel. So with that being the case and thinking of it as a trilogy, I've read the first one on my Kindle. I do have the next one ready to go whenever I'm ready, and it's a vampire story. Next up, I have Elixir Plague by Marcus Richardson, and I think this one's a zombie apocalypse type thing, if I remember right. And there are 6 books in this series, and I think it's actually like parts. So it's part 1, part 2, and I would hope at some point they'll all be combined into one novel, but it's like an installment series. I have read the first one. I do own the second one. Next, I have Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. There are 10 books in this series, 9 from L.M. Montgomery. There is a prequel to this of Anne's life before she goes to Green Gables, and that was written by someone else. I believe it was with the permission of the descendants of L.M. Montgomery. So, and I do own the prequel, so hopefully that one I'll be able to get to soon. Next is a duology, and it is the Jurassic Park World by Michael Crichton. Absolutely loved the first book, which was Jurassic Park. I did get Lost World, and I am excited to get to that one soon. The next series I have is Never After by Emily McIntyre. These are a collection of fractured fairy tales, so these are not retellings. Book number 1, I did read that one, and it is a fractured fairy tale based off of Peter Pan. So you have similar characters, they just kind of have some different roles, and they're more what ifs. What if this was the bad guy instead of the good guy type of a situation. And I do have the next one, which is Scarred, and so that title makes me think it's a fractured version of The Lion King. 5 books in this series. Next, I have the Chapelwick Mysteries by Kitty French. This is a cozy mystery series, a little bit more on the vulgar side as far as the language goes. It's a bit rougher. There are 2 books. I do own both books. I've read the first one. All right, I'm on the last page in my notebook here, so just this last couple here. Number 77 on my list is Brutal Birthright by Sophie Lark. There are 6 books in the series. I have read book number 1 and I own book number 2, so hopefully soon. Next up, I have The Four Horsemen by Laura Thalassa. There are 4 books in the series. I have read the first one, which was Pestilence. I own the second one, which is War. And I don't know the order of the next 2, which of the 4 horsemen is next. But there are 4 books in the series, and I enjoyed that one, and I'm really looking forward to getting to War at some point. Next up, I have a cozy mystery series, and this is an author that I found, at least when the first book was written, was local to Utah. I don't know if she still is, but at some point she was a local to Utah. I don't know, again, I don't know if she still is, but I just thought that was cool. And this is a culinary mystery by Josie S. Kilpack. I read the first one like within the last 30 days, and it was Lemon Tart. It was really good. The main character is older, like in her 40s or 50s, maybe 60s, somewhere. So it's an older main character, which I really liked. 13 books in the series. I have read book number 1, as I have said, which was Lemon Tart, but I do own book number 2. Next up, I have A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I read book number 1 on my Kindle, and book number 1 contained the novella, which takes place after the events of book number 1. So I have read book number 1 and the novella right after, just because it was all combined under one purchase type of a thing. So the novella was included in with book number 1, and there is a second book. So ultimately this is a duology, and I did get the second book. So hopefully I will get to this one, and this is a vampire series as well. Next is another zombie book, and this is ZF, like Zebra Frank. So ZF, The Passive Apocalypse by Xavier Max. As of right now, there's 2 books out. I have read the first one on my Kindle, and when I saw that there was a second book, I went ahead and got that one because I want to see what's going to happen now in the series. Okay, this next one is the Whisper Creek series. This is a cowboy romance. There are 6 books in this series. I read the first one on my Kindle. I do have the second one on my Kindle to pick it up when I'm ready to delve back into that world. All right, next up I have Behind Blue Eyes by Sarah J. Bernhardt. This is a trilogy. It is a vampire short story trilogy. I have read book number 1, and I do have the second one on my Kindle ready to go when I'm ready to get back in there. And then the last series that I have right now is the Charleston Pirates by Jacob Chance. So this is series number 85 on my list. There are 6 books in this series. I've only read the first one, and I do have the second one. I don't remember the title of it, but I do own the second one, so hopefully soon. Now, those are all the series as of being at the end of 2023 that I am working on. Again, some of them I am caught up on until they finally release the next book in the series, or if the series is complete or not, but there's no official word yet. For example, like I know that the one by Dot Hutchison is supposed to be a series, but only book 1 is announced and out. There's no word on book number 2 yet, so hopefully soon, but we shall see. So we'll see what I am able to do with these series going into 2024. I expect this list to get quite a bit bigger. I am reading a standalone novel right now, which is just sitting right there. Today is December 16th, so that will be complete this month, but it is a standalone. So I still have the second half of December as of filming this to get through more books, so I don't know what's going to change on this, what's going to be added, or anything like that. And yeah, so we'll see what 2024 brings. We'll see how much bigger my list of series goes, what ones I will be able to complete, and all of that. So as of right now, 85 series. And again, there's one series that I think I am completely, that might be complete if the author does not release anymore, and that's the cat massage one. That one comes to my mind, but we will see. So for 2023, I've been using this green color. I will switch to a different color for 2024 so that I know which books I have read for 2024, type of a thing. I just thought that would be interesting. So let me know. What series are you in the middle of and absolutely loving? Have you DNF'd any series? Are you caught up on any series and you're just on pins and needles waiting for the author to announce the next book? Let me know. Talk to me in the comments section below. And until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book. And I'll talk to you later.